Hello and welcome back to Scale JDM Reviews. And on the bench today you can see we have the Junction Produce edition of the Toyota Aristo, also known as the Lexus GS300 or GS430, etc. In Japan it was known as the Aristo. However, the one thing that the Aristo did have over the Lexus that we all know and love is the fact that the V300 version came with the legendary 2JZ GTE engine, the Toyota Supra Twin Turbo engine. So you can imagine that engine in a four-door car like this would go mental, and they do. However, we're not here to talk about speed, we're here to talk about style, and the Junction Produce version of the car certainly has that. It's low, it's sleek, it's very black, and looks very expensive. These are all the trademarks of Junction Produce, and they make some amazing stuff. So anyone here that's watched the channel previously, you may know that I do have a number of VIP cars on this channel that I reviewed. I'm a massive fan of the VIP scene. I do have a VIP car of my own. I have a JZS162 Crown. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about this particular car, the 124 scale Aristo on the desk here. What I'll do is have a quick look around the box. It's got the typical Aoshima drawings, etc. through it, and you can see here that it does mention it has a one-piece grille without the Toyota Lexus badge. We have the side skirts, the dual exhaust, body kit, etc. And we have a 19-inch versions of those beautiful Junction Produce Scara wheels in the kit. This doesn't come with the 18-inch version, the previously available ones. It comes with the bigger 19s. The model on this car, the model wheels on this car do, I think, represent the 18-inch versions, which would have come in the original version of this particular kit. So the kit has only changed the fact it's got bigger wheels, but the box art hasn't changed. So without further ado, shall we see what's inside this box? Tricky this one. There we go. Okay, as normal, the kits I usually get in from Japan. They are completely sealed in most cases. Pretty useless to try and review it like this, so I'm going to use my normal magic and make it all disappear. And there we have it. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is look at the body shell itself. I did notice earlier when I had a quick look through the kit that this body shell is actually moulded in a metallic black plastic. You can't really see it on the camera here, but it does shine under the light. I've never actually noticed this on a black kit before. But it's quite a nice touch, meaning that you could get away with not painting it. I mean, of course, you can see straight there on the bonnet there's a mould line going right the way through the top. But if you didn't want to paint the kit, you could just build it as is, and it would still look rather nice. You could still polish it up or clear coat it, whatever you want to do. But it's a nice attempt at making the kit kind of low maintenance in a way. Of course, painted up, it would look amazing, absolutely amazing. The kit itself is really nicely detailed. There's with the Aristo kits, there's always the normal mould lines on the front bumper there and on the back that would need to be taken care of. The rest of them follow the body contour across the roof and down. And apart from that, the rest of the mouldings are actually pretty on precise. They're actually really nice. And I have made a couple of these Aristos, and they are lovely kits to make. So next sprue coming up, we have the body kit. So we have some bottom skirts and bottom door trims here. These would literally just go straight onto the side of the car, as we can see it just there. I'll bring the camera down. As we can see it just there, it will sit on the side of the car. It doesn't make a massive difference, but the whole point of this is to be subtle, and it does bring the bottom of the car out a little bit wider and give it that just slightly custom look. What else we have on here? We have a roof spoiler, and we have a this goes on the top of the bonnet, between the bonnet and the window, kind of like an airflow dam. And we have a rear spoiler just there, along with the aerial at the top and a couple of number plates. Okay, so next up we have the Aftermarket Brakes for the kit. You can see they're very nicely detailed discs and calipers. They're Brembo ones. They've got the writing on there. We have the front steering just there. We have the rear suspension with airbags. This car does have airbags on it. The front bags for the front suspension will be in a separate part of the kit. These bits here, I'm not sure what they are, but they're not needed in this kit, nor are these bits here as well. I think they're just shorter spindles. to go through these, but there are going to be longer ones in the kit somewhere. Next up, we're going to move this out of the way so we can look at this sprue a little bit better. Even though my desktop is multicoloured, we can still see this. So you have the one-piece window canopy with the misted out parts that you need to paint black, of course, so the window rubbers. Down here we have the Aftermarket Fog Lights on the Junction Produce bumper. We have obviously the standard front and rear lights. These are the original bumper front fog lights. We don't need those. We do need these centre lights on the front. And we have the side indicators, the more rear lights there, and some more indicators there. Next up we have the seats. Now these, as you can see, have little detailed crinkles in them. This is so that they look, when they're painted up, they give it a leather look. They do look quite nice. We've got the backs of them here, and obviously you've got the kind of little section in the back of the seat there for newspapers and stuff like that. You've got the steering wheel, the gear shift, and the steering column. Next up we have the dashboard. Of course, this is a Toyota Aristo, so it is right-hand drive. Some say, including myself, the correct side of the car. Most of you probably would not agree. We have the centre console and the front wing mirrors on this one. So you can see it's pretty nicely detailed, and once it's painted up, it will look pretty spectacular. Okay, next up we have the rest of the interior. So with the back seats again with that leather look, and we have the door panels, which are really nicely detailed. You've got the speaker grills, the door latches, and again this kind of textured centre bit, which would obviously be leather in the car. So once that's painted up, it will look nice and detailed. We have a couple more number plates, and we have a rear view mirror. Okay, moving back to the car body, we have the front and rear bumpers. These are the Junction Produce items. As you can see, we've got two rather large outlets there for the exhaust. That is looking a little bit bent. They seem to always come like this, but it can be fixed by putting it into hot water and letting the plastic become a bit more malleable, bending it into place. But then again, of course, once it's on the car and glued into place, it's not going to move anyway. The body kit is very, very subtle, but it does make the car look nice. It does make the car look different to the standard one, but that is the whole point. The changes are meant to be subtle, but still noticeable. Okay, next up we have the chassis. Obviously this side doesn't really give you much to look at, but here we have the bottom. It's quite nicely detailed, in fact very nicely detailed. We have the engine, which doesn't quite match the car that it's in, because this is an Aristo. I guess it could do. Of course, normally in this you'd have the 2JZ. This is showing as it's going to be the V8 version. Go figure. However, I kind of guess this is a generic chassis for the JZS161. The suspension is not adjustable. It is a one piece, but this, like I said before, this does come with airbags, and once painted up, that would look lovely. It is an extremely detailed chassis. Not that you see it on most of these cars, however, there are a lot of people that take pride in doing their chassis and making them good to look at. Okay, next up we have the original grille. You can tell it's got the centre badge there for the Toyota badge, the wing mirrors, and the original exhaust tips there. Now these won't be used with the kit. I don't know why they would have still put them in. I guess just in case you wanted to build it standard. I don't know who would buy a Junction Produce kit and build it standard, but I'm sure there was someone out there that did it. Okay, on to the rest of the chassis. Now here we have the original brake discs. As you can see here, in comparison to the ones we saw earlier, they are pretty pants. We have the sump, we have the subframe and the engine guard down there, the rear diff and shocks, the rear diff and drive shafts. We have the spare tyre well, obviously the steering rack, and the spindles here, which I'm guessing are going to be the ones we use in this kit. We also have part of the suspension there. We have the exhaust, which in this kit you actually cut them off just here and use the aftermarket ones instead. It says so in the instructions. We have the airbags, as we mentioned before, for the front. We have the original spindles for the steering. We won't be using those. But then we have these, again, these are airbags for the back of the car. I guess we will be using the ones on the other sprue because these look a little taller than those. I guess it would give it that lower ride height. Okay, I'm going to eat my words a little bit here because I've just noticed the second sprue. I didn't pay enough first time when I looked through the kit. We have the actual exhaust we're going to be using on the car, not the one from the other sprue that I just showed you. However, in the same fashion, we will be cutting the two back boxes off to use the next piece that I'm going to show you, because they're chrome and they look a lot better. Now, the reason they've added two exhaust pipes is because this is a more free-flowing exhaust than the original one. You've got, instead of two centre boxes, you've got two centre resonators instead, which will give it a nice deep growl. You've got a straight up flow exhaust, and then you've got your back boxes. Now, if we take a look at the standard items, just there, you can see a massive difference. And believe me, those little changes in this one would make in the real car, a massive difference in sound. So what we have here is a different subframe, which I'm guessing is going to compensate for the lower suspension. So we'd have to use this one and not the other one on the car. We have the wing mirrors here, a rear spoiler, and also the chassis connection for the front of the car to go onto the chassis. And of course we've got the more spindles, although I don't think we'll be using those ones, to be fair. Ooh, shiny things. Okay, so here we go. We have the one-piece grille just there, which we've got on the front. That may need dulling down a tad because it's very, very bright. But we have the exhaust boxes. These would replace the cut-off items on the previous sprue. And then we have the exhaust tips, which look lovely, nice and big, nice and open, and they do look fantastic underneath these cars. So yeah, that's what we'll be using instead. And here we are. We're back at the stage of the sandpaper now. If you've not seen one of these reviews before and you've had a kit and you've seen this inside and you're not too sure what it's for, I'm going to show you. So in order to make the car sit right, when you've got a car and it's sat on the ground like that, it's got wheels underneath it, but notice that the offset is completely out, as in the car looked like the wheels are too far inside. Not a great demonstration there, but you understand what I mean. And as if by magic, so we've got a wheel here, a lovely set of wheels, and we put it in there like that. Now you can see that the sitting on the edge, this actually doesn't sit too bad, to be fair, but you still know that the wheel is under the gap. It doesn't look quite right, it's not sitting flush or anything like that. So what you do is you then get this sandpaper and you rub away this. It's about millimeters worth of plastic there, so you rub that away so that it's paper thin and enough to make sure that that wheel then sits flush on and makes it look a lot better. It's just basically about the stance of the car, and but it does make a lot of difference. When I first tried it, I was like, nah, I'm going to try it just for the once, but I didn't think it was going to make any difference, but in fact it changed the look of the car completely. It is a bit of a laborious task, especially using this. It's not really enough sandpaper to do with. I have a Dremel, but when you be very, very careful when you're using a Dremel to do this job, because you will very instantly take away the inside edge and the rest of the wing with it if your Dremel's too high in speed, or if you just go on too long. You have to be very, very subtle and very soft with the Dremel when you're rubbing against the inside of those wings, just to make them thin. Doesn't matter what it looks like on the inside, as long as you don't change the shape on the outside. Other than that, it's a nice gesture, but it can be used for other things. So, time for these. Now, this is one of my most favourite wheels on the planet. It's the Junction Produce Scara. I don't know what that was beeping. It's the Junction Produce Scara wheels. These are the 19-inch versions, and you can see they're moulded in a silver chrome colour. It's not a shiny chrome, it's more like a polished aluminium of some sort. And they don't look massively great like this, but if we get the other parts and we put them on top, just like that, you can see them come to life. And they do look spectacular. These are lovely, lovely deep dish wheels, and they look great on any kit. They do look really good on any kit, in any colour. And they will look especially amazing underneath this kit. And of course, if you're going to run wheels like that, you need some very low profile tyres. Now, this kit obviously came out before they started redoing the Kiwami kits with their kind of angled tyres like that. So you can see on that picture, this is a Kiwami one. So basically when it sits like that on the ground, imagine my thumb is the ground, you can sit at an angle without losing its height or without increasing in height as a normal tyre would that was the same surface thickness all the way through. Now these tyres are the same surface, they're flat tyres, excuse the pun. I'm not going to take them out of the bag because they will go everywhere, but they are nicely detailed and they are paper thin, so they will look fantastic on those wheels. So now we have the decals, and you can see on your screen that they're nicely coloured still, considering the age of the kit. There's no yellowing at all on them, and we have some extra options on here that we wouldn't normally get in the Aristo kit. So we'll start off with the pinstripe, of course. These are the Junction Produce pinstripes. We have what I think are decals for the back lights, maybe even the side indicators. In fact, I think those ones there are the side, the white ones, 21 are the side indicators. You've got the backing for the centre rear lights, number 19 and 20, and 15, 16, 17, 18 in the middle. Those are eyebrows for the front and rear lights. Now, I've not seen them on the other Aristos before, so that's quite nice. Number 14 and 22, those are Junction Produce stickers. Of course, we have the number plates at the top, and the Aristo and the V300. Oh, it does have a V300 logo, even though there's a V8 inside the moulding underneath, of course. We have the Junction Produce badges here, the navigation number 11, a few Toyota badges, and we've got the speedo dials and things like that. Number 25 is also the Junction Produce centre caps for the Scaras, just to give them a bit more life. Yeah, lovely set of decals, to be fair, really nice set. And last but not least, we have the chrome. Now, you may wonder what this is for. Basically, this is what they would class, Aoshima would class as their own bare metal foil. So you would use this to make trim around the windows, maybe make the door handles, anything that would need a bit of chrome, you know, the pinstripe around the bumpers, around the side of the car, you'd use this to do. Now, I've done this before on a previous Aristo of mine, and I found it a little thick, to be honest. I've mentioned this before in my other reviews. I find it a little bit thick and it doesn't bend very well. So whenever you use it, it must be on a flat surface, because if you try and bend it over like a sharp edge, it'll just unstick and there's nothing you can do about it. In the end, I did actually buy some bare metal foil, and I was very impressed. It's very thin, but it's very thin compared to this, and it did go on better. It was an experience, but this stuff looks better, I must admit. It looks better than the bare metal foil that I've seen, because this literally is a mirror finish. As you can see my GoPro just there recording. You can't see me, which is great. But yeah, it's you know, give it a try. Absolutely, you know, you never know until you try it. I have made it work once, but after that I gave up. It was just too hard. Okay, next on to the instructions. Now, of course, it does give you all the as normal with the Aoshima stuff, it gives you everything in English and in Japanese. Do read them, obviously. If you're a young modeler, do read them. Take care when you're using the knives and stuff, because you can cause yourself a nasty incident. I have many times. At the top of the first page, we can see all the colours that you need to make this model kit. And on the right hand side, it gives you the Mr. Colour recommendations. But there also are Tamiya colours there, as far as I'm aware, as well. I could be wrong. Obviously, we then get a image there of the car, back, front, left, right, where the decals would go, what it would look like when it's finished. It does look a very nice car, to be honest. Right, starting off, here we go. The first thing it does, it tells you how to use the decals. It's fairly straightforward, but if you've never done them before, those instructions are highly welcome. One thing I would say if you're going to use decals is use warm water. Do not use cold, use warm. Don't use hot. Definitely use warm, because it just makes them come off a little bit easier to handle. And make sure you have some Microsol and Microset ready, or your favourite brand of those products, because they just make things a lot easier as well. Starting at number 1, we have the front suspension setup. So of course we're using the aftermarket discs, and we've got the spindle going into the disc there and onto the actual steering column itself. Next up, down to the next one down, we've got the air suspension going in, and you can see the subframe going on there just as well. On the back, you can see that we are in fact using the lower rear suspension with the air ride attached, and the same aftermarket Brembo brakes. Then on goes the spare wheel well and the rear steering components, the rear suspension components with, of course, the drive shaft, of which case, if you don't put that on, the car's not going to go anywhere. Right, so next up we have the aftermarket centre exhaust, like we saw earlier, and it does tell you to cut off there and add these ones on. Interesting enough, down here, I did mention this a minute ago, what it's saying here basically, I mean, it does say down there to bend it, but the reason you need to do this is because this car sits lower than the standard Aristo. So if you have the aftermarket suspension that comes with this car on the car, but you don't adjust those two drive shafts either side to bend them down just ever so gently, they won't sit in the centre of the wheel when it's on the car, and it's going to look a bit silly if you if you turn the car upside down and you've got two drive shafts just pointing into mid-air basically. So bend them up a little bit so that when they go on the car, they do sit inside, they do point upwards into the car a little bit, but they will sit with where the wheels are. Right, next up we're straight onto the wheels. It's always my favourite bit, the wheels, because that's when you know you're getting there. On the hat it tells you which direction to put the tread and how to put them on the car using those poly caps. Okay, the next thing we've got is the interior. So we're making the interior, it shows the different colour codes and everything. The interiors of these cars look fantastic when they're done up. When they're detailed really nicely, they do look amazing. They can make or break the model, to be fair. We've got the steering column, everything going on. Make sure you put those decals inside those holes before you do anything else with the steering, because once that steering was on, it is an absolute pain in the backside to get those decals in there, because they are physically inset into the plastic. So you will need, do one at a time, and you will need some micro set just to make them a bit more malleable to get in there without ripping. Next up we have all the colouring and stuff like that with the interior. It goes without saying it will match what we'd already done here. Next up we've got the window going in with the windscreen wipers and the front bumper, also showing the rear view mirror, don't forget that. Next up here we have the front headlights going in and the number plate. I don't tend to put the number plates on the front of these cars, but obviously it's telling you where the decal placement is as well. You've got the aftermarket front grille going in, the indicator side lights there, and of course the wing mirrors. Again, the next one down, we've got the rear of the car, exactly the same thing. You know, you can choose which spoiler you want. You don't need to use the JP one if you don't want to. There are two in the kit, or of course use none. It'll look nice and clean. Then it's about fitting the car to the chassis, making sure everything fits where it should. And once the car's on, you can then start fitting the aftermarket parts, including the side skirts, rear bumper, the roof spoiler, and this kind of bonnet spoiler that goes on the front. And then, voila, you have your kit. What you can see on here is that this kit comes with a lot of parts. A lot of them we don't need. For example, as we saw, the suspension down here, the exhaust, the brakes, the original subframe, one of the spoilers and the grills, various other parts. But there are a lot of parts that you can use, but this does give you a lot of spares, just in case you have another Aristo kit you accidentally break apart. You'll have some spares from this kit. And there we go. There we have it. The Junction Produce Aristo in all its glory. It does look like an amazing kit. Sadly, I won't get to build this one. This is going off to a friend of mine, Justin. He's going to enjoy it immensely, I'm pretty sure. I'm very jealous. So if there's any kits you'd like me to do, just let me know in the comments. And I hope you've really enjoyed this insight into the Junction Produce world. Of course, if you like VIP cars, there are a few others on my channel here. Just take a flick through and have a look. There are many, many more to come. So keep your eyes peeled. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da!